Hey, beautiful. How are you? So glad to be back on to see you today. I hope everything is going well. Well, I wish I could see you, but that's okay. That's what we got the Zoom. That's what we got the YouTube for. So I wanted to come on and I was thinking about what topic to talk about, and I thought about being overlooked. And sometimes we can be overlooked in so many different ways, right? So sometimes you're overlooked at your job, sometimes even with your friends and your relationships and your marriage. Um, and sometimes it'll cause you to, you know, feel like what you have is not of value. You feel sometimes overlooked in your church and your ministry, and but you have to know that you are not overlooked by God. Because I know sometimes even people feel like, well, God, do you even see me? Do you even know what I need? Do you know what I'm looking for? Like, I feel like you're not hearing me. And so I think that, a lot of people that I talk to, and even myself, I've been through it where I'm like, okay, God, are you not even, you know, paying attention to my needs? I'm groaning, I'm crying, whatever the need is. But I know that he hears because he eventually answers that prayer. Now, what I find is that it's not always the way I wanted it, of course, but he answers that prayer. But in going back to like feeling overlooked, like I felt like that almost all my life, overlooked. Um, when I was younger, I grew up in a city where in the school I was in, and it was elementary school, I was the only black child in the whole elementary school. And I'm like 4.5 years older than my brother. So, by the time I got to the fifth grade, he was just coming into kindergarten. And so we were the only blacks, like for 10 years. And so, even though I can't remember everything about that moment, I got to believe that in that time, there had to be some sense of who am I? Why am I standing out? Why are they looking at me this way? Why are they talking to me this way? Why are they mistreating me? And it had to create a sense of, am I of value? Because I got to believe the words that they were saying to me didn't hold much value. Um, and so, even things like that in school, sometimes you feel overlooked. I know even in the smallest things, like even if it was somebody that I liked, or if it was in school when I got into like middle school, or if there was a project that I had done. Um, I remember one time that there was a project that I was doing. I can't remember what grade I was in, but it was elementary school. And so I did this because if y'all remember, I'm probably dating myself, but I used to watch this HBO special called Fraggle Rock. And in Fraggle Rock, there was this little girl, I forgot her name, but she had ponytails. And so it was a assignment where we had to draw our favorite cartoon character or our favorite character on TV. So I drew this little girl, I put the little ponytails in, and I was so proud of my drawing. And I took it to my teacher, and she was like, she looked at me and she said, I didn't want a picture of you. I wanted a picture of your favorite cartoon character. And she took my paper and she just threw it back at me. And I was like, and I literally was speechless. I didn't say, well, yeah, this is from Fraggle Rock. I didn't even tell her. I just felt like she just threw it back at me. But that was that part of that self-esteem that said, but I did my best. This was my drawing, and I this was overlooked. I was overlooked. Like it didn't she didn't see a talent. She didn't see my effort. She didn't say, "Oh, well, who is this?" She didn't say, "Oh, well, this looks like you. Who is this?" She didn't It was none of that. And it fell over into so many different areas in my life. And being overlooked sometimes, though, I found is that when people are overlooking you, you sometimes you allow that. If you don't express yourself and you don't say, hey, right here, like, whoa. Like if you're going out for that job interview and you do really well and they call you back or they tell you, you're not a good fit for the job, instead of just taking the, oh, okay, thank you, it's okay to ask. Well, could I ask exactly why I was not a good fit for the job? Because I really believe that the interview went well. And that part of stepping up is not allowing yourself to be overlooked, but speaking how you felt and say, you know, and expressing that you felt that it was good. Well, what was the reason? Because you should always be wanting to better yourself, right? So, even in those things, ask questions. If you feel overlooked, speak out about it. Um, on a personal note, like it was a couple of things that my husband has expressed to me over the last few years that he felt like I overlooked. And at first I was, what do you mean, what do you know oh, and thinking that time will just, oh, it'll change it, or it'll, no big deal. But he expressed it because he felt overlooked, because there were areas in his life, in his past relationships, where there were things that he wanted to say, but he just didn't say them. So he kept them to himself. And he promised himself, which is another thing that you should do, promised himself that he would never be overlooked again. And so when something was brought to his attention where he said, well, let me maybe just let my wife know that I feel like I'm being overlooked. Like she's missing this. And it's not intentional, but I'm gonna bring it to her attention. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to bring it to someone's attention if you're feeling overlooked or feeling like, wait a minute, I'm of value. You are valuable. Your voice is valuable, no matter what setting you're in. Now, true enough, there's a time to speak and a time not to speak. So you just have to use that tact. You have to use that wisdom. But your voice is still valuable. So if you're in a position where um, you feel like people are speaking negatively, or they're around you, or, you know, even if someone's talking negatively about somebody else, you don't flow in that vibe. Either you politely dismiss yourself, or you could speak up. But you don't have to be in a way that's forceful or mean, or, but that's another way of saying, look, what you're talking about doesn't sit right with me. And so I have to share this with you. And if, they may or may not agree, but the fact that they agree or not, that's not the point. The point is that you stood for what you believed in, what you felt was right. And so, and then there are other instances where when people talk negatively, or that you feel overlooked, or feel like somebody's not paying attention to you in the workplace, because I had that experience too. I had been at this job for a number of years, and there were different positions that I applied for, and um, most of them needed a certain type of experience, or at one point, some of them needed a bachelor's degree. So I thought, surely after I got my bachelor's degree, I've been here long enough. What's the problem? I should be able to apply for this position and get it. And I wound up not getting these positions that I applied for over the years, about two or three of them, that I really wanted, because it was like a step up, a little bit more money, and I did not get them. And they simply came up with the, oh, well, you needed a degree. Okay, well, I got you on that one. So then the next time around, I had my degree. And then I was like, okay, well, it shouldn't be any excuse now, and then sometimes they say, oh, well, you need sales experience. Well, I did have sales experience before I started working here. So what's wrong? And it was still a no. And so I used to wonder, why am I being overlooked? Why is every door shutting? And I found out from my situation, in that situation, that it was something that I needed to look at, to say, okay, there is a portion that's being overlooked, no doubt, but maybe I need to even just look at my whole situation. Should I even still be here? Maybe I need to be looking for something outside of this. So sometimes you have to look at the situation you're in and say, why am I being overlooked? Why am I not being taken seriously? Why are people like not paying any attention to me? And say, let me speak up. You have to have, and then I know that sometimes that low self esteem, though, that could cause you to not speak up. Like you don't feel confident enough to say, right here, got a question. I need to know why I didn't get to this position, or I need to know, or if you're in a relationship and you feel like something's wrong, speak up. Honey, you're not doing this, or I feel like you're not doing, I'm missing this, or we want to understand each other. You know, be vocal, even amongst your friends. If you're in a situation where you have a circle of friends and you feel like you're completely overlooked by those friends, you need to evaluate that circle because either they don't value you or maybe it's your point of you and you could be skewed too. But you never know until you speak about it, until you speak on it. Um, and the, once you grab that concept of saying, hold on, my voice matters. I mean, right now we're in this pandemic, and within the pandemic, unfortunately, we faced a lot of death and brutality through the police. Some police that take it upon themselves to make decisions as to who should live and who should die. And because of that, Black Lives Matter was formed. And in that, people have expressed very openly that their voice matters. And it's changed the world. So when people say, "Oh, well, even when it comes to my vote doesn't matter," your vote does matter. People fought and died, especially in the African American community, so that you could vote. So if you're African American, know that your vote does matter. People fought for that. They died for it. Your voice, therefore, matters. Your vote and your voice are the same. So take that voice and speak up for yourself. Encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to do those, and I've talked about it before, those affirmations where you're speaking life into yourself. And I tell you what, even if you don't believe it at that point, still say it. Push yourself to say it. I am beautiful. I am wealthy. I am going to get the position that God has for me. I am growing. I am learning. And after a while, you're going to believe that and you're going to walk in it. You're going to talk in it. Your voice is going to change. The way you think is going to change. The way you act is going to change. And that being overlooked will no longer be a factor. And they're going to look at you and say, "Oh, you changed." Because I know I still have people that kind of look at me and say, "Oh, that's Tasha. Oh, she always," or, "Well, she never did this before." And so there's a lot of people that don't really have, there's some people out there that don't have very high expectations for me, regardless of whether I know them or whether I don't know them. People are going to always look at you from the outside and judge you. And even if they've been inside in your little clique, they still judge you. But you can make changes within, and once you make those changes within, they come out. And once they come out, people are like, "Whoa." Because I have a really good friend of mine. She was very quiet in her spirit. She's a beautiful person, very quiet though. But when you see her, she packed with power, but she just wouldn't move on it. And it took her years to move in it. And now you can't stop her. You can't stop her. She wrote a book. She'd do interviews. She'll talk about it on YouTube. It doesn't stop her because she found out who she was and she understands her purpose. And she took it by the horns and she ran with it. And sometimes we would talk and she talked about how she felt a little overlooked or not worthy or not valued enough, or that she didn't have the oomph that she saw everybody else having. She's like, "Oh, one day, I wish I could do what she do. Oh, I wish I could talk like she talks. Oh, I wish I had what she had." And here we are today and she's got it and she's walking in it. But even though that took years, it don't have to take you years. You have the power right now to change the atmosphere in you wherever you are. Change it positively. You have the power right now to speak life into whatever situation you face. You got to get up the strength to do it. Get understand your voice is valuable and your voice has power. And you'll go from feeling overlooked to no longer being overlooked. People are going to say, "Oh, wait a minute, she got a little she even got a little swag on her. She wait a minute, what she just say? Cause she normally wouldn't say anything like that." And you ain't got to be mean. It ain't a mean. It ain't a nasty. It's just a awakening. You done woke up and said, "Wait a minute." Cause I know for me, I something about when I hit 40. I started not caring so much about what people thought. And then closer as I get closer to 50, I care even less. But it was a maturity thing. I had to mature into that and to not valuing people's opinions so much to where it was causing me to be somebody who I wasn't or making me stuck there. So once I found out who I was, and I'm still finding out, it's like an onion, it peels off every day. So I wanted to put this on here to encourage you to, if you feel overlooked, if you feel insignificant, no longer give that power to anybody. You take it back. Even if you allowed somebody to have it, take it back and speak life into yourself. Affirm who you are and speak up for yourself. Be proud of who you are and be powerful and walk in it. And you could just change your whole life around. So walk in that, be encouraged, and stay beautiful. I'll talk to you soon.